Hey guys, Joe Pye here at Advanced Innovations. Welcome back to the shop. As last we spoke, I was going to erase this door, and that's exactly what I'm going to start doing momentarily. When you do something like this, when you plan to change anything, make sure you look 12 steps ahead to see exactly what impact that has on the intent of the original model. And these two bosses right here, well, you got to look on the print and see what they do. They suggest a counter bore from the front that goes all the way through, and then a small through hole. This is going to be for a screw only, protruding out this side. So instead of using a screw from the face, I will simply drop it in from this side and push it through the small hole I'm going to put on this boss, no problem. Then I can turn the shaft to tighten it down and finish it with an Allen wrench, because it's going to have to be a socket head. I do not want to put the hole in the face of this model that they suggest and call out on the print. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Nope. Not going to do it. This all right here, basically the same thing, but a screw comes through from the outside, so I'm going to give it about 1/4 of an inch worth of engagement. That is not a problem. I may also move my pocket a little higher up and possibly shrink the door size overall. A feature like this, a raised feature like this on a casting, could possibly be an insert or a different part or pushed in after the fact. Who knows? So you can't count on the inside being coplanar to the outside, and since it's the outside we're going to be focused on, that is what I'm going to be looking at as I trim down the perimeter of this raised feature. I may have to tweak it, bump it, whatever, so I'm still going to put it back in the 2-vise setup that I used to do the base. I'm just going to hold it a little differently. Let's get over to the mill and make that happen. I've decided that the far side of the part right here I showed you before is already machined. So ideally, if I can machine these buttons parallel to this other side, then I have nice parallel surfaces to clamp on for the next holing operation. The side facing down of the vise right now was done exactly the same way this is set up, but only it was reversed 180 degrees. So I'm going to do the same thing to cut these buttons off and trust that the mating surfaces will be parallel, sufficient for what I'm doing. So this is a means to an end. This is not a finished feature. And yes, on the print, these two bosses are supposed to be the same height, so this is an ideal situation. Let's put it in the second vise, locating on the opposing surfaces, and line it up for the door. I think you can see the advantage of having those bosses now parallel to the bottom. That's going to give me a lot of control of this part this way, and moving the entire vise will give me the other control. So let's put this in the main mill vise, indicate something. Probably going to lay a tool bit or a blank in here and indicate that, since the outside is just rough and inaccessible in some spots. And we'll go from there. What I'm looking for here is the low spot on this elevated feature right now, because that's the first thing that's going to clean up. So you don't want to clean up the high spot. You want to find the low spot and work from there. And I would say that would appear to be this front corner. So I'm going to blend that first. See what happens. I'm trying to avoid going too deep. I do not feel like milling the entire face here. If I have to, I will. And then I'll just file in the radius and blast it to blend, but I'd rather not. But just for now, I'm just feeling this thing out to see exactly what I'm up against. Using the old finger gauge. If you wanted to, and I may do it just to show you, you could drag an indicator across this, although I do not like indicating cast surfaces. Zero it out here and drag it across the rib and watch for the jump in the needle. I'll give you some idea how high you got to go. And it feels like right here in the center is a low spot. Back here is pretty high. So that is an inconsistency in the outer edge. Still going to go for it though. I'm going to keep creeping up on it a couple at a time. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to say right here is the low spot on the entire thing. I may have to file the rest of it in. Let's just get the Sharpie marker to clean up on the entire surface right there, and we'll go all the way around and roll the dice and see what we got. Yep, going to stick with that one. Now this is an awkward situation, guys. The front and rear, the left and right side of this piece are very smooth. I'm sure there's some witness mark in there somehow. But on the y-axis is elevated somewhat. Let's just take it down a little bit further. And I mean a little bit further by 5/10,000ths of an inch. Oh, that's really close. At this point, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a cross on this particular area. I'm going to take a nice track forward and left and right, and that is going to be my new indicator surface. I'm going to pull this out. It would be great if I could cut the door in right now because everything is nice and true, but I want to cosmetically clean this up before I cut the door in. So I'm going to put that Y-axis track and an X-axis track for indicating this part at a later date. Hopefully staying within the confines of the new door. You know, sometimes the planets line up and wonderful things happen, and I got to give a shout out to a viewer who sent me a bunch of die files this week. And I'll tell you, the timing on this couldn't be better. So a big shout out to Christopher Chandler at Merriweather Machine Works in Greenville, Georgia. Thank you very much, Chris. This is going to be perfect. Exactly perfect for doing stuff just like this. Now, let's see how it works out. I'm going to start with a different one. I'm going to use one of those curved ones for the back here, but let's see. Now, you guys have also commented about let's see more of the hand filing, and the tough part of that, showing that, is the best viewing angle is my viewing angle, and getting the camera in there is going to be a little tough. So I'm just going to try to blend the outside. Well, you know, I should blend the whole thing out and then blast it. We'll see if that door looks like it was ever there. Short of this cross, I'm going to bet it doesn't. I've also had comments on how I keep the file clean while I'm cutting, and believe it or not, this little cloth that's behind the part is sitting on a 1/2 inch neoprene pad, and all I do is just press it down on the pad and draw it backwards, and it just pulls the chips out pretty good. I know there's a lot of talk about chalk and oils and all kinds of stuff, but I just drag mine along the edge of this cloth, and hopefully I don't lean on it anytime in the future. Now, when doing an operation like this, I am driving the file with the corner of my thumb, just enough pressure on the file, not to file a notch in my thumb. But as I go from the black into the silver, I can feel the impact point as a step, and it'll leave a small witness line. I'm just filing until that line goes away. You can see the black right there. So as I slide across the black, I can feel that, and it jumps up onto the track that I cut on the mill. I'm just going to keep on doing it until I knock it down. Hopefully. After spending a little bit more time with the files, this is what I got. I'm going to go over to the blaster, otherwise known as the magic eraser, and I'm going to see if I can blast this out and make this look completely flat. Just like anything else, the shinier it gets, the smoother the finish gets, the more the inclusions underneath come out. So give me 30 seconds in the blasting unit, I'll be right back. Fresh out of the blaster for our first try, I think that's pretty good. A little porosity showing up in the casting after the blasting, but for the most part that door is gone. And I believe that the door will probably, your eye will go to the door before it will go to the casting holes. And if I paint it, you're not going to see that anyway. You can see just a mild shadow right there, a cloud. And that could be a difference in the height of the parts. If you're not satisfied with what you got, don't give up on the first try. Say, that's good enough. We'll take it to perfection. After just a few more licks with a file and another shot in the blaster, I believe that I've removed the high spot and got this guy ready for the secondary of putting the door pocket in. Now, bear in mind here, I want the door pocket to be level when it's machined so that the bottom of the pocket is level parallel with the base. That means it's got to be held this way, and you can see how the incline will come into play. I cannot put the hinge pockets in parallel because when the door tries to open, the pins would be offset and the door would bind. So the door needs to be addressed true to this surface. So that's why I'm not going to do the hinge pockets at the same time that I do the body pocket. Now what I've done off camera is come up with the size of the door and the area where the hinges will be. This backside here is where the hinges are going to go. And the rest of it is the door, the main size of the door, because there will be an overlap, so when the door closes, you won't see the inside pocket. All the dimensions on the drawing that I've prepared are coming from the center of this particular layout so that I can physically put this wherever I want it and work from there, okay? This is going to make sense in a second. The model that I whipped up inside, I cannot guarantee that the draft that I have on the model and the rounds that I have on the model accurately represent this because I didn't scan it or CMM it or white light scan it or whatever. So this is how I'm going to do it. I will set this up in the machine. I will find that dead center point right there, and I will float the machine around until I like exactly where this is sitting. I will zero my digital, and everything that I do from this point forward is going to come off of that center point right there. All right. Let's take it over to the mill, pop it in there, throw some chips. The inner line is the hinge boundary, so the actual size of the door will be from the outside of this cardboard to the inside of this line. That's why it may look off center. Not to worry. I just want to make sure that the hinge pockets don't break into the round right here and mess things up. Right now I'm going to zero out the XY digital, and I have a cutter in the, actually I'm going to use a drill, and I'm going to pre-drill all the corner pockets and internal features that I want to mill right now. All right, let's throw some chips and keep our fingers crossed. I personally like the placement, maybe a little higher, just a hair. There you go. That's money. Now with the backside being tapered, you want to make sure that when I'm drilling through here, or when you're drilling through here, or whatever, that you don't go all the way through. I am going to pick the thinnest part of this, which is up towards the neck here, and I'm going to set a drill in the chuck and hold the tool bit against the back and make sure that the drill doesn't go all the way down to the tool bit. I do not want to break through. That would be bad. No bueno. First I'm going to map all the corners, then I'll drill it. Ooh. Here we go. This is what you call a projected surface, with the back side being the tapered side. The shim is against the back side, of course, you can see that. And I'll just bring the drill down just shy of it. And to set my stop, I'll use the same technique with the end mill. That way I know I'm not going to break through the back because I'm not touching that shim right there. Great technique. Projected surfaces can do a lot for you. Keep that in mind. Let's drill some holes. Just so I have a guide for the larger cutters that I will ultimately use to remove all of this material, I'm going to walk around the plate, connect the dots with all these dots with the size cutter that is sized for the corner rounds. That's 1/8, like I said before. This is all going to be a climb cut, so I'm going to do this in a counterclockwise rotation. So if the cutter flexes, the cutter will flex into the void that will ultimately be there and not into the wall. If this were to be a conventional approach, clockwise around this pattern, if the cutter were to dig, it might walk into a finished surface and leave a mark. You never want to do anything that's going to leave a mark. Let's see if I can get once around the block here. I'm not going to bore you with the entire pocket, but I will come back and show you the pocket after the initial pass is, actually, you're going to watch the initial pass, then I'm going to cut out. I'll come back after all the material's removed. You can see what we got. Let's do it. Between scenes here, I went back in my office and I redrew the drawing for this pocket. I presented the part on the drawing in the same projection that the part is sitting in the vise and then dimensioned it. It made it a lot easier to connect all of these dots. Drilling was no big deal, but when you're looking for an on-the-fly number, it's a lot easier if the drawing is oriented the same way as the part. It's a really good little tip. This is also a perfect real-world demonstration of what the mill skill maze is that I've brought to the bash a couple of times and usually sell on the website. All right, I think we're good. We're going to put in a bigger cutter. We're going to knock all this out, and then I'm just going to whittle away it. That's exactly the same way I just did, and that's going to bore you to tears. So go get a cup of coffee. I'll be back in a couple minutes. All right, we are down to depth. Got all the features in there that I want. And if you're going to take a guess about what these little ribs are for, maybe what these little ribs are for as well, who knows? Leave it in the comment line. I am going to take this out of here, wash it off with some alcohol, lightly break the edge, and I'm going to blast the inside of that so it looks like the casting before I shift over and machine the hinge details that will be on this side of that particular pocket. Also, a little survey here for you, for everybody that hung in there and watched it to this point. Should the door be aluminum or should the door be brass? Leave your comment in the comment line, and I think that it will very possibly sway my decision on which way I'm going to go. Let's take this thing out, clean it up, blast it. One more look before we sign off. How's that for a mess, huh? Oof. Well, after the blasting, you can see some more of the pores show up in this casting. I'm spoiled. I'd like to have the whole thing looking like a billet, but I guess you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Anyway, that is the door pocket. And you can see the door template that I used to lay that out. It's going to overlap about 1/16 of an inch, 1.5 millimeters in every direction. That's why the pocket is smaller than the actual cardboard. Anybody that's building one of these models, if you want the dimensions for that, just leave something in the comment line. I'll see how we can figure out how to get them to you. Maybe put them on my website just as a download. All is well. These will be the hinges. The hinges will be brass. Let me know if you want a brass door or an aluminum door. That decision has not been made yet, and it really doesn't matter to the cutter, right? So there you go. I'm going to call this one a wrap. That is all I got for you this time around. Next time I'll be doing the hinges probably, and the door, or the door and maybe the hinges on the next go-around. So I thank you very much for spending some of your day with me today. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're well and happy and safe, all of the above. Me, Joe Pye, Advanced Innovations, Austin, Texas. I'm out. A little bonus material for everybody that hung in this far. Take a wild guess where this goes. Time's up. Right there. Now you know what the little lugs are for. Love it. Thanks for hanging in, guys. Appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed that one.